I saw my mom take her last breath when I was 26, and it was just cataclysmic. Like, it was just such a shift in what am I doing with my time? I'm sitting in meetings, I'm sitting in traffic. Why am I doing this? The thing that I see again and again with founders who are not just successful, but who are also fulfilled in life, is that they have a set of skills and habits. They know how to tap into play. They know the importance of rest and recovery. They know how to regulate their nervous system. Like, they have these skills and these tools to connect to their inner world, I would say. For me, it was a complete surprise to find myself 27 years old in a penthouse somewhere in London, a garage full of toys, the business going well, everything according to plan. But yeah, being unable to, at some days, even get out of bed, like taking a shower.
Your story really resonates with me. I would say a year and a half of my life, I was lost to depression, and also like just being able to take a shower for the day is considered a win. And what really kept coming back to me was just the apathy.
Dancing is found to be the #1 antidepressant, more than weightlifting, better than sauna, and way better than SSRIs.
It's like in salsa bachata, or what type of dancing?
I mean, we're in Colombia, so
yeah. Amazing.
We kind of have to.
Korneel, welcome to Founders and Empanadas. Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks for the invite.
So today we'll be doing a deep dive into founder mental health, and no one better to bring on than you. But so thankful to dive into this conversation with you live here in Medellin.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and thanks for coming down from Santa Elena. So I was just saying, I've been to Santa Elena. It's like 30 minutes from Medellin.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there 4 times. Just recently went last month. And every time I forget to bring a sweater because I'm thinking, it's Colombia, Medellin, it'll be warm. And I keep regretting it and saying the next time I'll learn from my mistakes. But that habit hasn't locked in yet.
Santa Elena has a lot of magic, but do bring a sweater. Yeah, 100%.
Very necessary.
Yeah.
And how did you find yourself in Santa Elena, and what's the story of your move to Medellin?
I've been traveling most of the last 7 years, and the last few years were mainly Colombia, like half of the year Colombia, then a bit Mexico, Guatemala, a bit of Europe. And we were just done with, being in a new place every 2 days, max 2 weeks in one spot. It was amazing, but, we wanted to start building a home base. And a friend told us about Santa Elena. We loved the climate of Medellin. We didn't know we were going to be 1,000 meters higher and it was going to be cold. But it has a few really cool things. Like, everyone there is creator. Everybody's, doing their own thing, building their own business. Everybody has some magic to share. And so we're surrounded with DJs and people who do tea ceremonies and like people who are teaching us about fermenting stuff and like all these like different things we'd never think of, but like are really enjoying now. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Santa Elena is the epitome of magical realism in Colombia. It's like you'll have a day there like, this shouldn't be happening. What's going on? Why is there like a donkey in the back of this truck next to a tea maker? Okay, I'll just go with it.
Yeah, just go with it. That's the secret to Santa Elena. To all the magic, yeah.
Amazing. Well, Korneel, I'd love to dive into your background in VFX, the real VFX of blowing shit up for a living, and how that transitioned to your current business.
When my brother Thomas was 16 years old, he started doing these. He started going to discotheques and clubs, and he started like breathing fire. How do you say that? Breathing fire, spitting fire.
Yeah.
And
firebending.
Yeah, and he was doing these tricks and all of that, crazy stuff with fire, and he absolutely loved it, and I could see it in him. And I always had a commercial, like sense, and I was always saying like, that's nice, but you're getting paid peanuts, or that's nice, but you don't have a website, or your business is not incorporated, or you don't know, you cannot send an invoice, and every time I would say something like that, he would tell me, so help me. And so along the years while I was, studying, I was in high school, I started helping him create a logo and a website and incorporating the company and all of that. And it started as this hobby, but it grew out to, people were asking more and more. And so we started blowing stuff up at festivals, doing fireworks shows, and they got bigger and bigger until we were doing some of the biggest festivals in back then in Belgium. And we found out that festivals are like the worst clients to have ever. They will tell you last minute if they have budget or not, depending on ticket sales. The weather might be completely shit. Yeah, they want the maximum thing, but they want like the minimum budget, which might be true for a lot of businesses. But this was extreme. Like we would do 24-hour shifts. We'd have to be the last to come in, because we were dealing with live explosive, and the first to go out. And so it would be these massive shifts. It would always be weekends, summers, always when my brother's kids were having holidays. And so we started seeing that we were getting paid way more in movies to blow stuff up. It was, we were, welcomed as artists, not as, just a company who's here to deliver a service. We were being taken care of, and it was way more creative. And so before we knew it, we were blowing up really big stuff, building, how do you say it? Underwater, like, how do you say it? Submarines. Oh, wow. Who had to like be submerged with water in a minute and then emptied in a minute. And then my brother was flying all over the world to blow stuff up. And it took us a decade, but there's still 8 people working in that business. My brother is no longer with us, unfortunately. But yeah, he left an incredible legacy.
Amazing. I love that you can continue to honor him.
Yes. And I think what it installed in me is this hunger to like make the impossible possible. Like when we were saying we're going to build a business in pyrotechnics and we're going to get paid to blow stuff up everywhere, he's like, yeah, right, whatever. And it did take a while, but we succeeded in that. And I think seeing my brother work so hard and trying to do a similar thing in different other businesses, I came to burnout really fast. The next business was a video marketing agency, and after we started with 2 people, built it until 70 people in 4 years and a half. Got every really big corporate in Belgium, not everyone, but like signed a lot of really big clients really fast. And after 4 years and a half, I was just done. I couldn't really recognize the symptoms or the signals back then, but my body was collapsing and my mind was collapsing too.
And I definitely want to dive deeper in there. But before we do, I'm curious about just the transition and business model of the VFX Pyrotechnics company. How did you unlock your first movie making clients, and what was the process of realizing, this is the path that we want to niche down into?
I think it was a very simple mistake. It was we were hired to create an explosion, and we'd send an invoice, and afterwards the company called us to say like, hey, you guys only invoiced 1 day, but you were here 3 days. And we were like, well, that was the invoice for 3 days. So we were like, that was this moment of like, okay, so there's way more budget here. Yeah. There's way more budget.
Thank you, accounts payable person.
So it was a happy accident, and it was just way more fun. And my brother had a mentor who was showing him stuff, and then bought his company. And then we ended up having the largest private legal collection of weapons in the Benelux, which was then 1,400 live weapons, which positioned us as there was not really another option if you wanted to come into Belgium and shoot anything with guns or fires or explosions, or there was nowhere else to go. So yeah, it was a happy accident.
Amazing. Any scary stories of close calls with staff or?
Oh yeah, 100.
Yeah. What's one that comes to mind immediately?
We had developed this system for festivals to shoot streamers, which are like confetti, but like these long strings of paper. And it was self-developed, and we hadn't really tested it really well. And so we deployed this in like an 8,000 people crowd. And apparently one of them was not properly secured. And so the weight of the tubes brought the whole thing down. And then when we fired, there was a guy in the audience that received one of those things, like one of those streamers in his eye. And luckily, the guy now has recovered eyesight fully. But back then, like for a few months, he lost eyesight in one eye. So that was really, really scary. And, you know, on set, it's a very stressy environment. It's very long shifts. So there's always things. But I was always in the more commercial and background. My brother and his team was always more on the creative and operational side. But yeah, accidents happen.
Right. Glad that he recovered his eyesight and no major lawsuits. But yeah, let's dive deeper into the story behind building the agency, scaling that quickly, going through those growing pains, and the eventual burnout that you experienced.
We were going to these networking events, meeting founders, meeting entrepreneurs. And we found that they all had one thing in common, and it was that they were really emotionally involved in their business. They really cared about what they were doing, but they had no way of explaining it. Like they would explain for 10 minutes what they were doing, and after 10 minutes, we were still kind of clueless. And so we saw this opportunity back then to start making these 1-minute animation videos and to help entrepreneurs explain complex things in really simple way. And so we would make 1-minute animation videos, and it would really hit because we only did one thing, 1-minute animation videos. And so, yeah, we just hustled. It was 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And for a few years that worked really well, and the team grew really fast, and it was a lot of fun. And also with a happy accident, just seeing like, okay, clients are done having that video, and then they're putting it on YouTube, and then they get 100 views. And so, you know, like, what's the ROI then? And so just seeing like, okay, there's this whole strategy behind, okay, how are we going to create this video? Who's going to see it? Where are we going to post it? How are we going to put advertising dollars behind it? And then how are we going to analyze that? And so slowly we grew into that video marketing agency. It was a really fun ride, but having nobody to hold us accountable, having no clear guidance, having no clue on how to regulate our nervous system, having no clue of how to rest and recover. You know, anybody from the outside could see it coming from miles ahead. But for me, it was a complete surprise to find myself 27 years old in a penthouse somewhere in London, a garage full of toys, the business going well, everything according to plan. But being unable to, at some days, even get out of bed, like taking a shower. That was at the worst, that was like the best result from a day. Like I got up and I got into the shower. So that was brutal. We can spend hours over this, but what specifically do you feel is most helpful to get into?
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to learn more about, early on, what were the parts of burnout that you tried to hide, and at what point could you just not, did it really catch up with you?
I think that the parts of burnout I tried to hide most were the isolation, the loneliness. Like I had a lot of friends, a lot of family that loved me, but I was completely isolating myself from them. So I think there was shame about like, I don't have energy to do anything. I think deep down there's a programming inside of all of us, most so in entrepreneurs, that says that we're only worthy when we perform. And so when inevitably I stopped being able to perform, there was shame about like other people finding out. I think that, and just the exhaustion, which I could not, I wasn't really noticing. I was just giving myself a hard time because I wasn't working harder, even if I was doing 12-hour days every day. I think it eventually caught, like there were a few signs along the way where I signed my first €100,000 deal, which back then was massive. A year into, like I was 23, 24 years old, and there's this massive hype, like this boost of adrenaline, and then 3 hours later it's like meh. And so there was something there, like okay, like that was a signal on the wall. I remember another day I wanted to take out my motorbike for a ride on a Sunday, and I drive one block and I just feel like I don't have the energy for this. Like I can literally, like, this is really dangerous because I don't have the energy to ride my bike. Like, so there were a few signs on the wall. But I think it kind of came crashing down when I saw my mom take her last breath when I was 26, and it was just cataclysmic. Like, it was just such a shift in how I was thinking about what am I doing with my time? I'm sitting in meetings, I'm sitting in traffic. Do the people I work with, my clients, do they really care about this project? Why am I doing this? Like, there was like this sense of purpose that had been there all along, like completely fell away. And yeah, it kind of spiraled me into having a very hard time to focus, to concentrate, having less and less energy to be in those meetings, having less and less, just caring less and less.
Yeah. Well, on Founders and Empanadas, we like to eat some comfort food while diving into the uncomfortable topics. But your story really resonates with me. I would say a year and a half of my life I was lost to depression, and also like just being able to take a shower for the day is considered a win. And what really kept coming back to me was just the apathy, the kind of going through life as a zombie, having a big win and only being able to experience that fleeting moment of happiness for maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour at times, and then back to not sadness, but just the lack of vitality. I'd love to hear a bit more of your story of like how long that state you endured in that state, and kind of what caused you to remove yourself from that situation.
It fluctuated. There's, it wasn't very clearly like these days or these months. But it took me months to just even realize what was happening, what was going on. And it took me years to fully recover to where I am now. The very big things that helped me was I moved into, like, I sold all my stuff after my mom passed, and I moved into a Sprinter van that I converted into a mobile home for 6 months. I went into the Spanish mountains with dirt bikes and motorbikes and mountain bikes, and just rode every day, and just spend more time in nature, learn how to meditate, and just like be in my body way more. And that was super helpful. But then I went back to living in London, growing the business there, being there in winter, doing 12-hour days. And the contrasts, I can assure you, from living in Spanish mountains in summertime to going to Shoreditch in winter and just full on startup mode again. And then finding out my then girlfriend was cheating on me. And it was just like this massive clusterfuck, to be honest. Yeah. And I just landed deep down that hole again. That was the second time. And then it became really clear, like, okay, there's something I'm not learning here. There's something I'm not seeing. There's something happening that I just haven't learned yet. And it took my first retreat to have like a massive breakthrough of people surrounding me who had, nothing to hide, who were completely themselves, a really good coach, learning about breathwork, learning how to meditate, for me to really experience this massive shift inside me, and understanding that I could learn those tools, I could learn those habits, I could, make those practices my own to be in love with life, and not to be, to be feeling like a victim, and not to be stuck there and to stay stuck.
Yeah. And I love that you've transformed this experience into your current business, Retreated. I'm curious, what are some of the high caliber founders that you work with? What are some of the patterns that you see over and over again? And how are you able to tackle those?
The thing that I see again and again with founders who are not just successful, but who are also fulfilled in life, is that they have a set of skills and habits. They know how to tap into play. They know the importance of rest and recovery. They know how to regulate their nervous systems. Like they have these skills and these tools to connect to their inner world, I would say. And the people I work with who haven't learned how to do so are very often struggling with overwhelm, anxiety. They're in such a high stress kind of physiology all the time. And if it's not their body that's, screaming and asking for attention, it's often, showing up in their relationships. It's showing up in small or big addictions. It's showing up in, how they're showing up for the business is often overwhelmed, anxious, instead of this more visionary role. They get stuck in the company that used to feel like a playground and starts to feel more and more like a prison.
And almost they've grown this to a scale where it's no longer what it originally was, and has lost that original piece of fun. I know I've experienced glimpses of that myself. So, I'm curious, what do you tell founders that are maybe killing it on paper and having a really strong quarter, but deep down they're dreading waking up every morning? What's your first kind of underlying or low-hanging fruit that you address with them?
What do you say to founders who are killing it in the business, but who are suffering behind the scenes? It feels like, we want a magic pill and we want, 3 bullet point solution. And while there are tools, I think we should look at the psyche and our kind of inner world more as a garden to tend to, rather than a machine to fix, So I think there's so many things that are at play here. One of the first things I would do is, instead of giving them advice, it's asking them a question. And it would be a question like, how are you complicit in creating the circumstances that you say you don't want? It's a question that I'm borrowing from Jerry Colonna, an incredible mentor and coach, someone who built one of the most successful VC funds in the history, and who's now helping founders. And it kind of pulls them out of that victim mode, which, let's face it, building a company is extremely hard. It's gonna require hard work. It's gonna be stressful at times. But to answer your question, I would invite them into a state of play, find lightness. I would start with the very basics for them to be more into their body, whether that's through dance or immersion in nature, or really having them connect with their bodies. I would teach them how to reach altered states, especially through breathwork, which is a very simple, free way of accessing that kind of liminal space where we're not really awake, we're not really asleep, we're somewhere in between. It's like a meditative trance-like state, and many cultures worldwide have different rituals to get there, but we have kind of lost rituals in our culture, in our modern societies. And so yeah, getting back to their bodies, learning how to alter their states through breath work, and then finding someone that you trust and and are able to open up to, who has walked the path that you're walking, who understands the struggle, and finding that safe space to to open up, what's happening on the inside, so that you can stop self-sabotaging and actually build from a place of freedom and possibility instead of stress and fear.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most compelling parts of your service, and also executive coaches that were former founders, is the sense of loneliness it can be at the top. And now, I'm curious, now that you're running Retreated and you hold so much weight for all these founders you work with, how do you yourself stay grounded?
That's a great question. And let's say I don't always get it right. There's days where I'm feeling more anxious than I would like to, that I'm spending more time watching a screen than I would like to, that my sleep score isn't perfect. And I think what there's a very long list of things that work for me, whether that's, I live in nature, if it's spending time outdoors, if it's grounding, qigong, movement, breath work, watching what I eat. Like, there's a very long list of all those things that we know we should do. What I'm currently dabbling with most is more play, more music, and more dancing. Dancing is found to be the number one antidepressant. More than weightlifting, better than sauna, and way better than SSRIs.
It's like in salsa bachata, or what type of dancing?
I mean, we're in Colombia, so
yeah. Amazing.
We kind of have to. Honestly, I've taken over 500 CEOs and founders on these introspective adventures, and the moment in time, every time again, that I see that there's a big unlock or an insight or the transformation, where it really comes from, it's always from a liminal space. The best inventions, the biggest ideas, the most groundbreaking innovations never come from, in between meetings or in between writing emails. They come from time where there's kind of this download coming. And I think the most creative and the most groundbreaking founders and CEOs really embrace that. They embrace that downtime that is needed, or that liminal space that is needed for those kind of downloads and those insights to come to them.
And founders that feel like they're stuck in operations, or just the minutia of making sure their agency or product is on pace, how do they find that time to take the 7 days away with no phone and be able to have these downloads?
It's a great question. It's something that I've been asking myself too. I don't think everybody's ready for a retreat. I don't think everybody needs a retreat all the time. I think it's more of attracting people when they're ready. It's a very personal thing. I think for most people, it's only time for a retreat, or they only think it's time for a retreat when the company is about to collapse, or the relationship breaks, or their health is screaming for attention. And that's mostly when they find me, when they find the team. But yeah, my reaction is often like, could you call me any sooner? So we often wait until we're deep down in pain to take action. And I guess that's just the way it is for now. But I feel like more and more people are waking up to the potential of the power of things like altered states, where they know that it's very important for me to not just be in operation mode and in fight or flight all the time, but really take that time to reconnect, to be in nature. So I think it's just a process of people feeling the effect of how much it impacts them to have an afternoon in nature, or have a weekend with no phone, and then gradually build up to that 1 week offline full on retreat.
And doing it in a proactive way instead of when the business is already on fire. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Korneel, I really appreciate you coming on, and especially what you just shared with me before the recording of having just yesterday gone through the ceremony of celebrating the lives of your friends that just passed away days ago, and just how eloquent you've come today. And I can really tell that you have worked a lot on just your own mindfulness and being able to be present in the moment. So hats off to you.
Thank you.
And this is a last question that I like to ask everyone that comes on the Founders and Empanadas podcast. But what's one strongly held belief that you have that you think 99% of other founders would disagree with?
One strong belief I have that most would disagree with: pain is a teacher. I think we live in this society where we try to avoid pain at all costs. Whether that's how women give birth today, which is just another surgery, which is scheduled and on the timetable, or whether it's how we do pharmaceutical drugs, or how we do food, or how we do relationships, how we do, like, all these things are centered around, everything we do is centered around convenience and to avoid pain. And I think, alluding to the two friends who just passed right now, like, sitting with the pain of losing two people that you love, there's something absolutely magic there. And it's way easier to avoid that pain and to not sense it and not go there. But I think pain, as a teacher of mine always says, great pain is the greatest advisor. And so one of the retreats that we organize is called Courage, and it's based on this number one regret of the dying, which is, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself instead of the life others expected from me. And so I wish more founders sat with their pain from time to time, as we invite them to sit with their death and really come to this incredible place and sit for 7 days with a curated group of incredible builders, creators, inventors, activists, founders, entrepreneurs, and really sit with the fact that they're not here forever, contemplate their own death. It's the most powerful thing I've ever come across.
I know that I myself will like to just not even process pain or a difficult personal or professional challenge, just move on to the next thing. So it's a good actionable tip.
On that bombshell.
Amazing. Well, Korneel, where can people find out more about you and more about Retreated online?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, I think.
Okay.
Korneel Desmet, or go to korneeldesmet.com to sign up for updates.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Salud.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.